this is a story about business, and I guess some things that we can learn from this. So let's take it back a year ago, a year and a month ago this time. I was involved in the short-term rental business by now for about a year and 3 months, around a year and a month ago this time. So, I mean, I don't know if I should start from the beginning, but basically, a year ago around this time, a year and a month ago around this time, in the short-term rental business, there's ups and downs, in the hospitality business, so to speak, or so we call it. You have your highs and your lows. You have your hot seasons and your low seasons, and I knew that. I knew it was coming. It just depends on the area. So there's places where it's steady all year round. Maybe like Austin, Texas, or something. But specifically in Chicago, winter tends to get a little slow. In like Fort Lauderdale or Florida, it's the opposite. Snowbirds go to Florida, and it gets slow around the summertime, and then it starts to pick up, November through like February. It's really hot out there. So it all depends, by area, location, state, the weather and all that. But in Chicago particularly, it was gonna get slow, and I knew that. I had anticipated that. But some of the units I had, not all of them, were in undesirable locations, so to speak, and not that I'm blaming that. But that's one factor that contributed just to even being slower, and just things started to go wrong. Some things went right, don't get me wrong, but it was just slow, and starting to even put some of my money into it. And I started to let go some of them because it wasn't worth. Like I started to see they weren't worth it, right? The money I had made was literally gonna be eaten up throughout the wintertime. So I was like, I started to see that. I started to put some more money into it, and I was like, this is not, going. So it was a weird time. It was a weird time. Things weren't going the way I wanted them to. Just small little things were going on, more little losses, and it was just getting slow. Some guests were complaining about this and that. I mean, we had somebody break into the unit. In one of our units, we had somebody break in, and it was crazy. They broke in and they stole some stuff. They stole some stuff, and the guests were staying there. Luckily, they weren't there at the time. That's crazy, yeah. This unit was, it's just crazy. I had jumped in, and my first short-term rental unit was actually in Humboldt Park. Keep in mind, I'm not even from Humboldt Park. I grew up, aside from like Cicero, like I would go visit my cousins in like Pilsen, I would go stay with my grandma in my aunt's house and play with my cousins and stuff in Pilsen, and then my other cousin lived in Little Village, but I wasn't familiar with Humboldt Park. So the first short-term rental was in Humboldt Park, and I guess it was like on the block where I'm not sure what gang. It might have been like, it doesn't even matter what gang, but they were founded there on this one block. I think it was Lemoyne. And they're like, damn, before I even got the unit, I had done some digging. I asked people around, like, hey, how is it here and stuff, and they're like, oh, and when I would tell people that block, they're like, oh, well, that's where it was founded, like that gang, the foundation. I'm like, oh, wow. It's like I'm over here getting my first unit in Humboldt Park in the heart, and my other unit, they were all kind of close by, kind of like Humboldt Park, Logan Square area. But the second one was, I want to say, East Humboldt Park? Or was it West? Yeah, no, I think it was East Humboldt Park, near a street named Maplewood. And basically, they broke into that unit. And they stole like the guests' jewelry and stuff. And the guests were like, "Oh shit, what happened?" And I guess we found out they had broke into another unit within the building too. And I was trying to think, like, how did this happen? I started to think, like, I started to not trust one of the cleaners, because she was a little shady. Not sorry, I don't want to say she was shady, but she started, like, there's just some shady behavior, and I don't know. Like, I just started to really pay attention to what she was doing, and how her work was slow and things were slow. And I don't know if it was her, but she was like one of the only ones that had access to it. And basically, we try not to give access, for the cleaners. Like, everyone had different codes. We had electronic lock boxes, so everyone had different codes. But I was trying to figure out, there was a slip in the cracks, and I think it came back down to maybe either the cleaner knew or somebody, or maybe even in the building. But I don't know. I definitely learned that you want to be switching codes often. If you're gonna have an electronic lockbox, you want to be switching codes often, because if somebody has access to the key in the building, or somebody knows that code, then somebody could do something with it, and they can make a copy. But point is, around the same time, things were going wrong. That's just one story. There was other things that were going wrong that just weren't going right, aside from me putting my money in. So I was getting a little rocky, and this is right before I started having health complications. So I was getting a little rocky. Like, I was kind of, I wouldn't say losing my confidence all the way, but it was just one thing after another, boom, 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 getting hit. And I was like, fuck. Little things started to pile up and add up like that. And I'm like, damn. And I don't know, it could have been a coincidence. Things happen. I mean, I was losing focus too, because all these other things. But shit happens. Even with the main story that I wanted to bring up is, my colleague at the time. But I know with him too, he was having, even though, like, in hindsight, his business, I mean, he was grossing, I think, like $1 million within the second year. But even then, there's always putting fires out. There's always putting fires out. So I didn't try to take it too personal. But what I'm trying to say, guys, like, even in the times of the worst, like, what I've noticed is that some people gravitate more to you in the times of the worst, because they're not necessarily doing so good. That's not always the case. And when you're doing better, sometimes they repel because they're not doing so good. So what I'm trying to say is, even in your worst, or you're in your best time, let's say you're in your worst time, you should still try to support people, because your success, their success, has nothing to do with each other. It's hard. Sometimes you got the emotions and you start looking at yourself like, damn, you feel bad or whatever. But, at the time, I remember I was still trying to help my colleague get another unit. And even though, like, my unit, like I said, I wasn't doing bad, he told me too, like, bro, you're moving backwards. I'm all like, shit, I know, because I was letting some units go. Some weren't worth it anymore. Like, I was like, this is not worth it. I took like 2 of them just to like kind of do a deal and keep the, well, one I thought was going to work. The other one didn't really work, but I took it, like, I should have known better, but I took it, like, just to do a deal type of thing. And that's something you don't want to do in real estate. That's another thing I learned. But you don't just do a deal to do a deal. I kind of just want to, I had the momentum. I'm like, all right, let's go. And I know some other, we've all done that. So, but basically, what I'm saying, we all have done that. Like, other investors have done that at least once. I mean, I've experienced it. I've seen it. And basically, like, my colleague, like, his business was thriving. And I mean, like I said, in the second year, I know he grossed $1 million. I mean, he told me, I'm not going to go, I'm not going to put it all out there, but he told me, and, he was moving up and stuff. And at the time, like, yeah, for me, I didn't feel like, damn, I just felt like, damn, reaching out is like, it's going to feel kind of weird. You're reaching out and you're not doing as good as you would, but I still didn't feel like I wouldn't help him out. I know some people feel that way, like, oh, I'm not going to help him, I'm not doing good. I would still love to help out, but I still felt like, damn, reaching out, you feel like that, like, they're going to ask you, like, so what have you been up to, or how you been? You tell them, well, I'm taking it now, or whatever. It depends how the person is, and if they're, I guess, your real friend or not, right? But I mean, I told him straight up, like, yo, this is what happens. Like, damn, bro, you're moving backwards. I'm like, yeah. I mean, shit went wrong. Shit happened. He understood in a way, but at the same time, he did. He tried to help too. He's like, yo, I mean, you wanna hop on board for management? I'm looking for a manager. But what I'm trying to say, guys, is like I said, in the midst of being in the worst situation, it's good to give out a hand, no matter what, because your success or someone else's success has nothing to do with each other. And the next man's success or the next woman's success has nothing to do with yours, And if you try to help someone out, believe it or not, like, even if you don't think it's going to come back to you, it may come back to you at the time where you're maybe at your worst, or maybe someone else is, it might come back around. So I remember I felt so rocky. I was like, this one day I felt so rocky. I was going to go see an apartment, and it's like I had no business to go see it. I mean, I had some funds, but like I really didn't feel confident using those funds to find another apartment at that, at that specific time in wintertime. So, but I just went because I had told the realtor, like, we had an appointment, and I just kind of went to keep my word and to just show up. But I remember just like I was with my son, and I had actually stayed at the Airbnb in my, at the unit, and I just felt like so rocky. Then like the next day I was like, why am I even doing this? Like, I'm not even going to get the apartment. Like, I don't have intention, but I had still reached out to one of my guys, and I told him, hey, I'm going to go see this if you want this. I had told my guy, the one that was doing good and stuff, like, hey, I went to see this deal. Do you want it? Like, this is what I went to see, and if you're open to it, you're more than welcome to take it. And then he's like, oh, it's funny, I had actually talked to that owner, and I'm gonna go see it like Wednesday, and it was Monday when I went, and he has all these other buildings, and I had told him that too. I'm like, well, I went to go see it, and this guy has a bunch of other buildings. So I mean, obviously, if you get one, you prove prove your worthiness, build that trust, and they'll open up more units for you. So it was a good, good thing. And like, then that's when my buddy had offered me. So it's crazy. That's what I'm trying to say. Then my buddy's like, oh, well, I don't want to handle the management position, in this part of my company. I want to focus more on growing and, the acquisitions part. But as far as managing, it was like managing the clientele, or sorry, managing handling the management side of the business, right? So like he was leasing the short-term rentals, and then he was also providing management for property owners, and he didn't want to handle that part, and he asked me to come aboard. And again, that came about from me bringing a lead to him, and this was again at my worst. Like, I wouldn't say my worst, but like, shit, like I was already like getting strikes on the platform, like it wasn't looking good, and I had brought this lead to him, and then he offered me that. So think about that. And again, I'm not trying to say, like, I'm not trying to sound condescending in any form or way, but what I'm saying is, if you're at your worst, you should try to help, even if you don't feel like it, because that's ultimately what's going to get you out of the rut anyway, if you're stuck in a rut. Being like, oh, I'm not going to help them succeed, like, well, that would be one way to help you get out. Think about it for a sec. So, sometimes it's like they say, like, you're not receiving love, or you're not receiving support, then why don't you give it? If you're not receiving something in life, you don't have a dad, you don't have a mom, then try to be one, even if you don't have a kid. I mean, you know what I'm trying to say. But yeah, so that was a business story, like it was just rocky, and I remember like I said, I was self-funding it at this point. Besides like the whatever I had made from the previous months, I saved, like I didn't spend none of that. I was all in the business, but eventually I was draining, and then I started to put my own money into it. And yeah, it was getting rocky, guys. So, you're really tested in these situations where things are not going well. That's when your character comes out. And that's when it's like you just gotta keep going, even if you have those doubts. Like I didn't want to show up that day. But yeah, it was what it was, and these things are gonna keep happening in life. It's not like it happens once. You learn, and you become like, yeah, you gain that your strength muscle, right, to overcome obstacles and stuff. But things are still gonna happen, and you're still gonna get caught off guard. It's just as time goes and you get used to it, you're more inclined to handle situations like that. But yeah, guys. So the moral of the story is like, if you're gonna be in a situation, you're gonna get into a situation where you're with your back against the wall, flip it. Try to help someone out. Instead, if you're gonna get some type of envy or a bad emotion that's gonna keep you stuck, reverse it. Help it fuel you to like either help somebody else, like basically like Kobe said, man, R.I.P. Kobe, but get over yourself. You know, you're not that important. That's what he said. This is coming from a basketball player who, I mean, this guy was a legend. So it's like, get over yourself. Help someone else out, you know? I mean, I didn't take that position with him, but I still tried to help, you know? And I still tried to reach out to him, even if he, you know, he was doing 10 times way better than me. And he still is. And I still reached out, you know? It's like I said, my past failures, your past failures, the next person's failures, we can learn from each other, but at the end of the day, we could only control what we're going to do next. You know, don't use it as an anchor like, oh my God, it's going to hold me back. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, guys, flip shit around. Take a step forward and let's get it. So, yeah, I hope that helped. Have a good one. Tune in for the next story reel.